Christ. But I was like, if you let me live and see another day, I'll live for you. You just have to show me what that looks like. So that was about 5:48 in the morning. I was a house manager at the time. I just graduated from college, actually, with a degree in child development. I got my bachelor's of science, and so then I was a house manager for a group home, and I had to be to work at 7:30. So we go from 5:48 in the morning to waking up at about 6:45. And I don't know how many people out there listening to this, if you've ever been drunk, if you've ever been hungover, if you've ever been on something that you shouldn't have been on, I shouldn't have been able to function with about an hour's worth of rest. But God, you know, and those two words, but God, are the things that got me through. And I woke up, my eyes were clear, my energy was up, and I was excited to live on that day. And so I got up, took a shower, ate, excited. And I'm an extremist. If anybody ever gets a chance to meet me in person, I do things extreme. So I was breaking old CDs. Anything that had anything to do with the world, I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So I got myself up, got ready for work, walked into work. And one of the young men that was at the group home that I was over, he goes, "Hey, Mr. Taylor, you look a little different today. You know, you're smiling, you look happy." And I was like, you know what? You're right. And this is why. And that was my first opportunity to actually share the great and awesome things of God. And since then, God's been taking me on this accelerated course of ministry and just of sharing the gospel in a real, relevant, and radical way for people to really be understand. And now my purpose is to lead people to the information, but my prayer is that it leads to transformation, you know, so they won't have to go down the road that I went in only getting head knowledge, but get knowledge that will transform lives, you know. And so that's pretty much where my testimony was, and now it's allowed me to come all the way, you know, out here to be with you on Historymakers, and touring around the world, sharing the gospel of Christ through motivational speaking, through evangelism, and through this medium that we call Christian rap.
So tell us about Christian rap, about your musical career.
Yeah.
Were you a rapper before you came to Christ?
Yeah, I was actually doing worldly rap prior. I've been actually rapping since I was like 5. My father, to go back on that, he was a DJ and he had his own group back in the day. So I just grew up around music. My mom was a singer, so my parents were pretty musically inclined. But the things that were coming out then were the things that I knew, the things that were around me, you know. And when God changed my heart and the actual transformation took place, things of my heart were still coming out, but now my heart was different. My heart was on the heartbeat of Christ. You know, the things of God were the things that began to come out. You know, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You know, and that's when I began to speak life. You know, and those people that know, you know, death and life on the power of the tongue, and we all have that option. You know, I just decided to choose to speak life, and life to me is Christ and Christ alone. You know, so with me doing my music back in the day, I just wanted to be known. You know, it was a lot of self-glorification. Want to be popular, you know, and I was pretty good at it. But my music never went anywhere. Like, you didn't know about me prior to now. You know, and so when I started doing this thing full-time for God, He began to elevate and put me on platforms that I could have never imagined. And I know for a fact it's because I was obedient, and I continue to be obedient every day. And I tell people, the way high is low. You know, we don't go low. We don't humble ourselves to get those great things. But in that, God is a great Father, so He does bless with those things. So since then, like I said, God's been taking me on this accelerated course. I've only been ministering. It'll be 4 years in November that I'll be ministering through Christian rap, holy hip hop, whatever you want to call it. And God's allowed me to win numerous awards. Just released my first album this past January in the States. Getting ready to release it out here this Friday coming up. I'm excited about that at the Worship Center. And also, this is my 3rd year coming to Australia, you know, and so that's just been amazing. I was a guy who never thought that I would see the end of my block, the end of my neighborhood, let alone a different city or a different state, but now a different country, you know, and to know that there's awesome people like yourself that are reflecting the glory of God in an awesome way.
Now, one of the purposes of this show is to inspire people to make history, to use the gifts that God's given them to make the world a better place, to change the world. Tell us some stories. You know, when you go out and rap at concerts, you know, I know you mentioned you've opened for the Newsboys, you're doing stuff with Louis Palau, Crusades, you know, you perform at all sorts of different things. Are there some stories of, you know, teenagers or young people that have heard the good news and you know, had a life change through the music? And do you get much feedback like that?
Big time. You know, I like to fellowship. Like, I'm big on fellowship. I love the stage. I love the platform that God has given me. But my thing is doing life with people, you know, and that's after the music stops. You know, that's after I walk off the stage. And so I get a good amount of time to just talk to young people, talk to adults as well, who come and tell me testimonies about how they had never heard the message of God in a way that they can understand it. And what I've learned, you know, that when we are able to understand things, then we can start to do life application with those things that we understand. And so I've got numerous, hundreds, now I can say even thousands of young people that have said that by them hearing the message in a way that God has given it to me to give to them, it's changed their life. But one thing that I do want to say is God's message, God is an equal opportunity God, you know, and his message is the same. So it's for everyone. Although my main target group are young adults and youth, I've learned that even adults can understand the message. You know, the method may have changed, but the message is consistent and it stays the same. And so one quick testimony is there's a guy, and I don't think he minds because he's my family now, 50 years old, by the name of Vaughn, back in the States. And I did my record release concert, and his son was supposed to come, you know, 14-year-old son, Justin. How you doing, Justin? 14-year-old son, he was supposed to come, didn't come. And so my aunt came from Arizona to fly to come see my record release concert. She took the CD to Vaughn's son Justin, gave it to him. Now Vaughn, you know, is a Christian, but he also had his doubts on life, and had his doubts on if God is really hearing and seeing what's going on in his life, because he's had a lot of you know, I'll say horrible things that have happened in his life, you know, and he's trying to be the best father that he can be to his son and his daughter. But long story short, she gives the CD to Justin. Justin goes and listens to it. Vaughn goes and says, "Hey, before you listen to that, let me listen to it to see what kind of rap you're listening to, you know, because I don't allow certain things in my house." Vaughn calls me, you know, a little bit while after and goes, "I have not given my son that CD back yet." He goes, "That CD changed my life." He even went so far to tell me that some days prior, he had thought about committing suicide, and he said, listening to that CD, he found out that there was even a young guy like myself who went through and is going through some of the same things that he went through. And so he wasn't in this walk alone. He had somebody else that he could at least relate to. And since then, we've been not only the best of friends, but this is a guy who is family now. Like, my wife,